Tim,
Yes, sir.
I have an interesting approach today. I spent the whole weekend pondering my miseries, my anger, my frustrations. So this time I made a list. It's in my little book here. So I'm going to go through the list. First, a tiny bit of housekeeping. We got these invitations here because we want the public to let us know what angers them. Dump your anger here, scan, vent, and be heard. And hopefully you're angry about something other than this podcast. And but yeah, use them, remember us, and let us know what makes you angry. And so anyway, over the weekend I was spending a lot of time in my mind, and periodically I do that. There's not much in there, so I have to kind of dust it out. But I put together a list of the kind of things and specific problems or thoughts and situations that anger me. So the first thing on the list are thought leaders. Now, that to me is the most fucking bullshit term.
Thought leaders.
Right? Mm-hmm. I mean, Tim, thought leaders. And it kind of ties into, because of this AI craze and chat GPT and all this shit, everybody could be a thought leader, right? You just ask a few questions, the computer prints it out. All of a sudden, you're an expert in the field. And I don't, so now to me, almost every expert is suspect because everybody can't be a thought leader, right? I mean, I guess in the day and age where you could buy a Harvard degree, you could be a Harvard grad. But, it just seems to me to be such a fucking twist of irony. Like, you and I, we could be thought leaders. All we got to do is go out to ChatGPT, get a nice little subject matter, definition and explanation, and put it out there. Hire somebody to write a book. We put our name on it, and we're thought leaders. We have no fucking real experience.
Sure.
Right? So now I question all thought leaders. So who gives you good advice? And as far as I'm concerned, all the people that could give good advice, all that sage wisdom, is all dead and buried from the generation before me. And it's like, to me, you're going to take advice from your friend. Like, could you imagine being 15 years old or 30 years old, and I'm only taking advice from my friends, the same idiots I hung around with, right? And all of a sudden, one of them calls himself a thought leader, and I'm listening to him like he's a god?
Yeah.
The fuck?
I've only heard thought leaders in a negative sense. In other words, people say, well, you're not a thought leader. But I've never heard anybody say, that's a thought leader. Have you?
Well, I've heard people say, you didn't think about that.
Yeah.
Or, or when you're young, your parents will say, you didn't think about the consequences, did you?
Yeah.
Of course not. I'm a kid. Yeah. Why am I thinking about consequences? But, this whole idea of thought leadership, and it's just another pretend world, right? It's like the world of the narcissist going legitimate. I mean, the whole thing to me just sounds pitifully stupid and weak.
Yeah.
Right?
A little oxymoronic.
Yeah. That to me has more value. An oxymoron has more value than a thought leader.
Yeah.
Right?
Because they lead in thought.
And I think on one of the Seinfeld episodes, George Costanza was going to do the opposite as he always did, because every time he did what he thought he should do, he fucked it up. So he said, I'm going to do the opposite. And his life turned around.
Yeah.
So who needs a thought leader? Just do the opposite.
Right.
Anyway, so that's one thing. This got to be popular with everybody that's ever been to a restaurant or in an airplane with unruly kids. I'd like to slap them silly, but you can't do that. I'd like to correct them, and you can't do that. Somebody was telling me a story. There was a kid kicking his airplane seat, and he turned around and said something to the father, and the father told him, basically, fuck off. It's my kid. He can do whatever he wants. And I'm thinking, Jesus, my father would have slapped me if I did that, and I didn't stop. So what do you think they ought to do about that? I mean, they have all these airline rules and restaurant rules, and kids wreaking havoc everywhere, and nobody disciplines them.
Yeah. Well, as far as it comes as being in airplanes, there's a lot of things to be angry about. I've never seen it so angry. That's a heck of a topic. I suspect a number of your listeners are going to be able to chime in on the.
Well, send us your airplane stories. Let us know, because besides the regular airline problems, dealing with asshole people in the airplane itself, that's a real problem. I mean, that gets people nuts. Fist fights on the airplane and everything. Yeah, but bratty kids.
I'd like to hear something from these undercover air marshals and see what they experience, what makes them really angry.
Maybe they'll send us some info.
I'd love to hear from one.
But I'd like, I'll bring a roll of duct tape with me and just tape that kid's mouth and tape his hands together and his feet together and just let him sit on the plane for 4 hours. And then he'll know who's boss.
Yeah, well, they get loud, but they also are incontinent, and so there's some odd odors that can circumvent the airplane too.
I'm not changing any diapers, I could tell you that. It's not my gig. I'm done with that. But I do, so shitty kids on airplanes and restaurants are shitty kids because they have shitty parents. I remember, like, when my kids were little, if they started to cry in a restaurant, I just walked outside with them. I threatened them. But, sometimes the kid's not able to handle himself. The parent has to do the right thing. And most people don't. They think their kids are above what society, would expect. It's that simple to me.
I was at a funeral not too long ago, and there was a kid playing on his mom's cell phone. Just the whole funeral, all I could hear are these beeps and blasts and music. And
yeah, and so don't take your kid to the fucking funeral, right? I mean, I just don't understand that. And how do you expect a kid to learn within some kind of boundaries if you don't teach him? Or her. I don't want to blame it all on the boys. My next subject matter is going to take a little bit of research because I'd like to present things that I found in the media, so we could all judge on whether it's real or not in the media. But the ultimate grifter, that's a subject for its own podcast, and it's going to be an in-depth study, so to speak, of the great ripoff of America. So stay tuned. The free look. I don't know how many apps I bought, right? Because I wanted to find out what they did, and I wanted to experiment. And, it's kind of like buying insurance. You get a free look,
right.
Whether it's a 7-day free look or a 3-day free look or a 10-day free look. The free look is fucking bullshit. It's a numbers game for the big institutions because they know that most people do not know how to manage that free look. They think that they're going to go right into that app, they're going to play with it, they're going to use it, and a week later when they start getting charged $15 a day to use this app, then they're like, what? I don't need this app. Try to undo it. I mean, the free look is the biggest scam in marketing. I guess that's marketing, right? Free look?
Yeah, it's inducement.
Right, it's an inducement. So, but it's scandalously abused. I mean, every time, maybe 1 in 100 people will manage that free look properly so it doesn't cost them anything. Otherwise, they're in it for the duration. And it's kind of like buying something through the mail or one of these TV specials, and you buy it, and you have to pay shipping to return it, or shipping's not refundable. And they'll ship you garbage, even though you're going to ship it back, and they make their gravy is in the shipping and packaging fee.
Right.
Right? That goes right to the bottom line. That's the cash cow. They could take the same broken, shitty product and keep sending it out millions of times.
Yeah.
Because that's their business, is shipping and packaging. Right? I mean, I'm just exhausted, angry, frustrated, exhausted, because the free look and the the shipping and packaging, it's just there to rip everybody off. You get them excited about something, you misrepresent something, you falsify its value, and then people are stuck with the shipping, packaging, and the free look that they spend a fortune on.
Right.
I don't know what to do about that, but somebody's got to put an end to it. That, to me, is a real big scam. Tim, if you could read this, you could pick the next couple of topics, but I guess I got
I want to come back here a minute on your shipping debacles and whatnot, because it wasn't too long ago that you had a case of wine coming in, but it required somebody of the age of 21 to sign for it.
Oh, yeah.
And I remember you getting so angry.
Yeah. Because I live in an apartment building, so when they shipped it, it came UPS, I believe, and it's packaged beautifully so nothing gets damaged. But in my building, you can't get certain stuff certain times of the day. People aren't working. So I get this notification that the package they attempted delivery. After 3 days, I couldn't find where the package was,
Right.
how to get it redelivered. I called UPS. They told me, oh, well, somebody has to be over 21. And I said, well, the people in the office are over 21. Just let them sign for it and they'll get it to me.
Yeah.
Oh, no, we can't do that because you have to authorize it in some way, and it's got to be delivered to your door. And they change the rules every time, right? My 18-year-old daughter couldn't accept delivery because she wasn't 21.
Nope.
It aggravated me so much, my head almost exploded.
I remember, Alan.
I mean, calling UPS, tracking it down. I finally called the Vineyard, and I said, hey, I'm really sorry about this, but if you can't work it out and straighten it out, then just, forget my name, lose my number, lose my address. Don't ship me any more wine. It was fucking annoying.
Yeah.
But it took a week, I think it was, about a week, maybe 8 days to get that wine. Okay. Talking about packing and shipping. Now, the shipper did the right thing, but the shipping company wanted to be a pain in my ass. And they made up rules because those rules didn't exist, actually, which I found out through all my millions of phone calls. And it's just, they make everything so unpleasant. With all the luxuries we have and all the ability with technology and everything, they still make it hard for people.
Yeah, but what you did, as I recall, was you were really mad. You blew up UPS or whoever the shipping company was. You blew up the Vineyard, which pitted them together, and that's how you got the resolution, hindsight, by pitting them together for the responsibility rather than you not having a 21-year-old child dance at the door.
And it took a lot out of me, Tim.
I
remember I was bitching to you every day about it. But again, there are a lot of people that cannot put that amount of energy into a resolution or into solving the problem. They'll just sit there in their rocking chair and cry about it.
Yeah.
And I like lighting them up and pitting them against one another.
Oh, and one good thing about you is you really are firm on a deadline date. Like, get it done today by 6 p.m.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if I don't get that call back that it's done,
I was very impressed that you were able to navigate the analytics there to get your.
I actually didn't even make anybody cry that time.
It was loud though.
It was. I mean, I've had a couple of those, but you know, you have to have that perseverance, that level of frustration where it doesn't really matter except to get it corrected.
Right.
And it goes on and on and on, and you know.
All right, let's see what we have going on here in your book.
Go ahead. Can you read that, or just point, and
No.
I'll read it.
Well, here's a very interesting one. I can understand how it may make you upset. The concept of it is what it is. What exactly does that mean to you? It is what it is.
Well, it's one of those. It makes me angry and frustrated because it's like it. They could apply it to everything and anything, but nobody knows why it's out there. And that's just like taking it for granted, like that's the way it is. And I don't think anything should be like take anything for granted. If you don't have the guts, or if there's a problem, just say there's a problem.
Yeah.
You know, if there's an issue, say there's an issue. You're gonna win, you're gonna lose. I don't really, but it is what it is. It's kind of like laying down and dying.
Yeah.
Right? To me.
Yeah.
No fucking way. It's not going to happen. It is what it is. Even if I made the situation worse, at least I'll know it is what it is.
Yeah.
You know?
It's a form of learned hopelessness. It's an acceptance that there's nothing that needs to be done and just accept it for the way it is.
So I remember when I was in college and I had a problem and I went to the professor and it was something about a deadline. And the professor gave me that line. I'm sorry, son. You fucked up. You missed the deadline. It is what it is.
It is what it is.
And I said to him, you know, my fucking old man pays for me to go to college so that hopefully I could change it is what it is, right?
Yeah.
To learn how to grow out of this, how to make something better out of it, right?
Yeah.
So you're sitting here telling me there's no fucking way you're going to see what I did even though it was late? Mm-hmm. And he just said, yeah. And, you know, my answer to it is what it is fuck that. You know, because to me, it is what it is not acceptable. It's not a decent explanation. It's not even a result. It's you giving me the finger because you have a label next to your name that says professor.
Yeah.
And it's not that I have problems with authority. I have problems with most authority.
Yeah. Well, that's what it is. It's an authoritarian tactic to tell you to shut up.
Yeah, it is what it is. Well, I'm not going to sit there and accept everything that's said and done to me like that's the gospel. That's it.
Let's see what we got. We have time for one more here. Sense of urgency, you know?
Yeah. Well, you know, that ties into, you and I are like anti-big companies, right? We're anti-big government. We're anti-big corporations because they impose so much bullshit on their customers or the public. And, you know, we don't have the skills, the time, the audacity to dig through all of this shit. It's like, you know, you're covered with governmental and corporate feces and you're trying to dig your way out of it all day long. It sucks, right? So the part of that makes me nuts is you have to have fortitude to fight back. It's all about fighting back, because if you don't fight back, we all lose. Everybody loses, and you keep losing more and more and more. And again, all the advancements over time, the railroad, the only thing of any real value is fucking air conditioning, right? All the rest I could do without. You know, if I had to ride a horse across the country, as long as when I stopped there was a place that had air conditioning, would be fine. But, you know, what were we talking about?
Talking about sense of urgency.
Yeah, well, that's what I mean. Government has no sense of urgency to correct stuff. They let this, you know, idiotic genius, Musk, to to clean up government, all he did was blow up a few departments and steal everybody's private information. I mean, I don't think that's the way to solve any problem. And then when it comes to urgency, nobody's got the sense of urgency that you might have when you have a particular problem. So you get on the phone with a company that is supposed to help resolve that problem or pay to fix that problem or whatever it is, and they'll run you around ragged. You're fucking exhausted.
Yes, the sense of urgency is put on you
Right.
to hurry up and get it done, or
Right.
you lose out.
And they have no sense of urgency to do their job for you, which is what you paid them for. Yeah. There's a total disconnect there. I mean, and even when they let you go online to do different things, to make changes, to ask questions, to chat, and to do, I'd rather jump off a bridge.
Yeah.
Because all of these things that are supposed to make life easier, better, faster, are just a way to fuck the average guy.
Yeah.
All right? You get to pay for more and get less.
Yeah, all these topics connect together with a common theme, and I'd again like to address your subscribers and whatnot to give us some feedback on any of these.
Yeah, they got to be pissed off, right?
They are.
And I say, for the sake of all of us, it's better to be pissed off than pissed on.
You're exactly right.
So let's start the games. Let's take back our lives and fight against all this bullshit that government and big corporations are making us dig through so that they could have bigger profits every quarter.
I think that's good for today.
That was a weak whistle.
Yeah,
that's a bad whistle. There you go.
All right, nice. Thank you very much.